Welcome to another GamerCast. Can you tell the difference? Probably not.
Nope.
But we're actually in the same room.
Holding hands.
For once. I'm Rob McCallum, course director of the NES Club, joined alongside the producer of this wonderful piece of technology, Glenn Stanway.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen.
And then to my left, maybe the left channel of audio, I don't know, to my left is the video game rockstar himself, Jay Bartlett.
Hi, guys. Great to be back.
So today we are talking once again about video games. Shocking, I know, but we're going to forecast the future of video games. What do you guys think about that? As always, I keep you in the dark. I give you these cryptic titles.
Like what we think is going to happen to the industry in the future?
Well, we're going to cover a lot of ground.
Like whether or not we're going to have flying cars and Android policemen.
Video games, Glenn?
Oh, okay.
Forecasting the future of video games.
Okay, that maybe it wasn't. Okay. Crap. My prep work's out the window.
Fair enough.
Let's get to it.
So before we get to it, to jump back, there's a little update on the film I think should bring people up to speed on. Last night we held a private screening with a rough cut. There was about 40 people or so. You've heard us talk about the film a little bit here and there. Jay and I have obviously seen cuts before, but Glenn, this was your first chance to see more than the odd clip.
Absolutely.
You got to see the whole film. So without giving anything away, why don't you tell everybody what the experience was like? Just like the actual night, the build-up, what was the energy, and then what were your thoughts on the film?
I've signed a non-disclosure agreement, so I can't tell you anything about my experience.
Son of a...
No.
I'm trying to trap him.
It's and
entrapment.
And I apologize if what I say is a little bit stilted, just because I want to try and catch myself before I say anything I shouldn't. But
just because the creator and the star are in the same room,
staring at
go
you
ahead.
from across,
staring at me,
staring at you from across the stop sign table.
I'll say what I said to you guys last night. So we got together after the screening last night, and what I said to Robin, I think I told you this
on the mic in front of a packed pub.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't just be in confidence as an aside.
Hell no. I got stage presence to maintain. What do you want from me? So,
bite my tongue on that one.
Oh,
you got to have it first.
As I told you guys last night, I sat down, and without trying to be a jerk, sat down and the lights go down, and Rob, you had the movie like ripped to a Blu-ray disc, and you're getting it set up and everything, and the lights go off, and there's a second where, and I've never had this thought before, but I just had this mild moment of panic where I'm like, oh man, these guys are my friends, and I know these guys, and what if this is awful? Like, what if this is bad? What if I don't like this? And not even if it's bad, but like, what if I don't like it? What if I'm not, into this after?
You mean like what if you have to fake like, yeah, it was good?
Were you thinking about faking it? If I didn't
like it?
I don't did you have a strategy like, if I don't like it, I'm just going to smile and nod when I see them? Like, good job.
I'm the worst liar on earth, so I would not have been able to do that. But
I should have shown a bad version just to...
I am very glad to report that within a few minutes that wasn't an issue at all. And what was great to me is that there was and Rob, we don't see each other as often because obviously you're in Vegas and we don't get a chance to interact or hang out as much.
Stranded of the island in Las Vegas.
But Jay, we see each other fairly often, and we do other. We had the band, and we do all kinds of stuff that doesn't involve the movie or the podcast. And after a few minutes of runtime, that whole mental thing of like, hey, I know who these guys are, just disappeared.
This is after you realized this might be something worthwhile watching.
Well, yeah, very, very quickly, any fears I had about that were dispelled, and then I was totally along for the ride. I was just in the movie, and I forgot that I was watching a film about people I knew doing stuff that I knew they were doing, and I still had that buy-in in it. And I didn't know anything about how the quest turned out or what the result was.
But we won't say anything.
And I can't say anything about that. It's fairly critical to the film, but I found myself really, really invested in the outcome of it and what was happening. And, I felt the tension along with the tension you guys were almost certainly feeling on screen. And I was really, really impressed, guys. I really, really do think that as much as that's not a final cut of the film and it's still going to get tightened up a bit, I think you guys did incredible work. And I don't think that anybody who has invested their time and their energy and their feedback through any of the promotion you've done for the film, any of the GamerCast stuff, like all of you guys who are giving us comments and following along on Facebook and posting and retweeting us and listening to the GamerCast every week or binge listening and getting a couple episodes in at once. I can honestly say I don't think any of you are going to be disappointed by the final product when you finally get a chance to see it. I was really, really, really impressed. I'm really proud of what you guys did.
Yeah, I don't want to stay on this because we could talk about, dance around and talk about the mystery of the film for the whole hour or whatever this turns out being. But the one question I enjoyed asking people as they left, other than, do you like the movie, was it what you expected? Now, you're a little bit closer because you do the GamerCast with us, and this is primarily a marketing attempt to tie in with the film, give us a chance to talk about the themes and subject matter. But you've seen the trailers, you've seen some of the stuff we're posting, the pictures, the stills. Is the movie what you expected? In which ways did it vary? Was it good? Was it bad? What do you think?
I'm going to have to choose my words really carefully here. Because I almost wanted to say I was surprised at something, and I don't want to say that because surprise indicates that
No, surprise can be a good thing. You can be pleasantly surprised.
There was never any doubt in my mind that you guys were going to be able to pull off what you were trying to do as a film. But I was impressed at how well the film holds together narratively. And
maybe speak about that one concern you had going in.
I was about to say we talked yesterday night, Rob. We had a little
last night.
Yeah, one of my other bands, not the one I'm in with Jay, but I have a cover band. We play 90s rock tunes, and the guys were kind enough to come to the pub and have
shameless
their
plug.
Yeah, they had their
Spoonman
post-screening party, so we had a really nice kind of social gathering afterwards and got a chance to chat a little bit about the film afterwards. I had mentioned to Rob that part of my concern would be just based on some of the things we've talked about off mic or off camera in the recent couple of weeks. You guys went into the movie meaning to make a movie that was sort of a love letter to Nintendo and about Nintendo and their history and its cultural significance, but at the same time, there is this narrative following Jay on his quest. And based on some of the stuff we talked about, Rob, I was a little bit worried about how you were going to strike that balance, or how much of it was still going to involve Nintendo and how much of it was still going to be about Jay, and whether or not the movie was completely about Jay. And I know there's been some talk about the title change that you guys were discussing.
We're considering possible title modifications depending on the film.
Yeah, and as I said, not knowing what's been settled yet, but that you mentioned on one of our other episodes, there was a possibility there's going to be a title change too. So, and that might reflect how the film turned out.
Yeah.
So
without getting into it,
exactly.
It's an ongoing discussion as the film evolves.
But these are all things that kind of raise questions in my mind about how well that balance is going to be struck, and I was really impressed at how well you did it. I think there's a really nice.
And just to clue people in, we're talking about Jay's challenge and the people that we're interviewing, the gamer celebs, the gaming community, and how the subjects we talk about them ties into Jay's journey and when that content plays off each other.
Sort of those portions of the film that sort of tip a cap to Nintendo and pay tribute to Nintendo and say, hey, we love this company and these are the reasons we love it and this is why it changed things for everyone. But still having that work around Jay's narrative and being able to cut back and forth between those two things and do it really, really effectively without really to me all the cuts felt really, really appropriate. Like things got dropped in just at the right time, so everything flowed together really, really nicely, and it doesn't pull you out of sort of that ongoing trek that Jay's on that you're kind of trying to keep tabs on while you're doing these little breakaways to maybe talk with some gaming celebrities or some other individuals from the industry too.
I'm gonna put you on the spot because I don't think this is giving anything away. Of the game industry stuff, I think we have 4 or 5, maybe 6, depending on how you want to talk about it. Subjects. Which was your favorite that we did with the interviews?
Oh wow.
What a good question.
That's my line.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh man.
is actually your line.
There's the history section, which hasn't been fully animated yet. Trust me, that's not going to be the final way that you saw it.
I liked it. It was kind of
some
very 96.
It's very like arts and crafts.
It's like Microsoft
clip
Office
art.
clip art from 1997.
I dug it. I like that one.
There's the history section, which is kind of just on its own. It's to bring everybody up to speed.
I thought it was well done, and just in terms of not necessarily what was being presented yet. Obviously, it's not done, but I mean,
the aesthetic.
I think in terms of just the voiceover that ties what the final animation is going to be together is very well, really efficient
Thanks.
It does a good job at doing what it's designed to do in that brief span of time.
So that aside, we talk about like the narrative games, like the games themselves and how they have a narrative presence. And, you know, James Portnow is one of the people featured there. We have a section on music as well. We talk about competitive gaming, of course, Digiverse physical, art, boxes, and collecting in general. And there's a couple more, but
I thought all of it was great, to be honest, and that's not me trying to give a non-answer. But if I had to pick a favorite part, I think just from a pure audience perspective, and especially for people who are maybe not gamers or really into the gaming industry, I think they're going to have a lot of fun with the music section. I think that's just a nice, fun, kind of casual.
It's a really fun part.
Let's remember how great this stuff is.
Well, that's it. It's a huge nostalgia section.
That part especially, I think, that's a good little kind of breather for people to sort of, you know, get away from some of the anxiety that Jay's going through in the other portion of the film.
Well, there's a few big things that really happen, and Rob breaks it up really nicely. Where there's like this big event happens in the film, and then okay, let's take a break from that for a while, and let's do the fun music thing. For sure. No, really
but that's if I had to pick one, I think that's really going to resonate with people. But I think particularly maybe, not to say that the gamers aren't going to enjoy that part, but I think a lot of the people who are maybe less so will really get a lot out of it.
I think it's pretty convincing with the argument that the film is making that this console and this company made a huge impact. And that impact is really communicated when you see these people talking about this music in particular and the way that they're doing. So if you don't know anything, it's like, you know, I say music is a big part of the NES, and you're like, okay. And then it's like proved with every comment, like how much of an impact it is.
Because not knowing when you're playing these games, it does loop. Like it's like a 20-second loop at most, and you're hearing the theme over and over and over again. It sticks with you.
Cool. Well, I'm just curious, which sections and stuff you liked. I haven't looked at any of the surveys. Again, if anybody's listening that's solid, I've got to appreciate you attending and giving the feedback. It was a fun evening. It's very last minute, but it was fun to pull off.
Yeah, it came together well, and I really appreciate you letting me be a part of it. And it's great to be able to
talk about it now.
Well, not even talk about it, right? Because a lot of it we can't talk about. But now I know. I feel a little different about doing the GamerCast now with having a little bit of context.
Oh, no. Different in a good way?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think it just gives me a little more context for some of the ways that some of these subjects are going to play out in the film and how they're going to be presented to audiences.
Sure.
And I think that's a good thing. I think it's always good to be able to kind of talk about the film and feel somewhat more like I'm an authority on it because I've actually seen the finished product and I have a good sense of what the final movie is going to be, or at least very largely going to be. So yeah, thanks again for having me. It was a really good time.
You got it.
Mike Diamond,
VHC tapes. We got some questions that should. Oh boy,
what does Ian say this time?
Ian has
round 6 of Steve versus Ian.
The questions are from both Steve and Ian. Shocking.
We just need to start doing.
We get 2 plays every week. One from Steve and one from Ian.
Do you know what? I think Steve and Ian should start their own show.
They're taking over.
If we ever get to the point where we do any sort of like video podcast, I think we need to do like Steve versus Ian.
I would love these guys to do like a video like dedication kind of like online death match.
Who's the biggest fan? Send us
like
your
a Steve
videos.
Versus Ian segment on
Team Steve, Team Ian.
Oh, we can make sure it's that could work.
Yeah,
GamerCast, Team Ian.
Man,
Steve.
This is we're geniuses.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, so Steve says, think I'd like to hear about hardware and accessories. Nintendo has always been the champion of accessories, from the Zapper, the Super Scope. Which piece of hardware or accessory had the biggest experience on your gaming career? And is there an accessory you'd like to see continued into the new generations? So that's the first one. He's got 2 questions. So which piece of accessory, peripheral, did you guys like the most, and which had the biggest impact on you? Jay?
I liked Rob the Robot for the symbol that he was. I mean, it didn't work well, of course, but controller-wise, I was a big NES Max fan. I love the turbo buttons, and I loved the way it had that little thumb thing, so your figure wouldn't get loose.
It's the precursor to the boomerang design that is so common with every console.
You could argue it was a cheater controller because, I mean, again, in Zelda 2, you'd hold it down and you wouldn't have to hack away at the enemy. You just held the button down. I was a big fan of that. I also like the advantage which was the kind of first real.
It's a hipster controller.
No, it's the first real arcade stick, though. You kind of feel like, hey, a little bit of piece of the arcade at home with me. Those are my picks.
Yeah, I knew a couple of guys who swore by their NES Advantage.
It was heavy though. Remember that had the metal base?
They were not like
It was not a lap-friendly controller. Yeah.
I had a third-party arcade stick that I loved, and I like swore by it for like RPGs, like Final Fantasy, because you didn't have to sit there and push, the D-pad to go over. You can just kind of hold it with your finger.
You played Final Fantasy with a stick, really?
Yeah, because it's all turn-based, right?
Talk about hipster. Like, come on, man.
If I could have stood up and put it in a cabinet, I would have, and then I would have been a real hero. Yes. What about you, Glenn?
What about Woo, Glenn?
What about Woo?
What about Mike Diamond?
Mike Diamond's here.
Billy Johnson?
Spoon Man.
I'm trying not to give.
Look at his Liam Gallagher pose. What's he
You
doing?
guys are both putting your hands behind your back. Like,
I'm not.
Eddie's, boys.
This is we're not used to judging each other's body language while we're recording these episodes, so now we can.
Fail.
I don't want to give a non-answer, but honestly, the standard NES controller is probably the most life-changing. It is like it was
Next.
It was totally unique, and it changed the way every game controller.
That's the Metroid of answers that you could have given.
It's true, but that just means it's the best of answers that it could have given.
How you didn't say the Power Glove surprised me. I guess you never had it
because it didn't work.
It does work, and that's a precursor to the Wii.
It did not work.
It did. It just was incredibly hard.
Remember we tried it with Mario and. You had to like clamp your fist in it. I know people can't see what I'm doing.
You had to like stick your thumb out and maybe your pinky and like rotate it left or right to jump.
We didn't even get past 1-1. We couldn't even get past the first Goomba because no one could figure out how to do it.
It only sort of worked for Punch Out, but not past Glass Joe.
It was actually not bad for Rad Racer. Wizard.
The Whiz. Look at me. I'm the Whiz. I'd have to go with Light Zapper.
I'd say the Zapper holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts.
The gray one, though. None of this
Not
orange safety bootleg bull.
Bing.
I'm just creating work for you at this point.
I appreciate the long pause before you completed the.
But where were parents getting that confused with a real gun? Like it was gray. It wasn't even black or anything. It was like,
but it looks completely authentic in period.
Listen,
maybe like if it was like Buck Rogers' gun or something.
A lot of American families are very serious about the right to bear laser pistols, man. So
33rd and a half century.
Yeah, I guess. So you have the gray one, right? Obviously, yeah. You have both. No, what was the one that you wanted? Remember, we'd always play guns.
I want to use the gray one.
We'd always play guns, and you didn't.
Wait, tell people what playing guns is, because that sounds like horrible. As kids,
okay,
we ran around the neighborhood playing guns.
So it was just you had a toy gun, and you go pow, and if you were in line of sight of the guy and you shot him, he was out. And Rob didn't have a cool gun, so he had to use this.
I had an 1812 like musket from Disney World, or I had the light zapper.
And guess what? Grandma would never let you take it out, so you had to like smuggle it outside. Remember? And then you had the cord. You had to wrap the cord around.
I didn't want to drop it.
It was like a big hair dryer. You had like a hair dryer gun. Anyway.
It's like RoboCop. Second question from Steve. I've always thought of the Wii's entire motion setup as something that would have just been a hardware add-on or an accessory, and not something that the console should revolve around. So maybe the most hated peripheral, and why? So I guess there's kind of like two things, which I think we kind of covered. We kind of covered the peripheral that doesn't really work that much.
U-Force, awful.
Yeah, U-Force is a good one. You're saying Power
wow.
Glove, Glenn?
Power Glove is bad.
As much as I love Nintendo innovating and coming up with new ideas, they've made some really lame peripherals.
Well, I mean, you can't fault them for trying. The Power Glove now is like Rob the Robot, where it's an iconic symbol.
What was that?
Do you know what I mean? But
what was that like Wii like heart rate sensor that they had? You remember what I'm talking about?
It works.
I'm not saying it doesn't work,
they have
but I'm just saying
Wii Fit U one that comes with like a pedometer now and just measures escalation.
Yeah, I know Maya actually uses the pedometer.
I got it. What about the onslaught of plastic attachments for the Wiimote that did nothing?
Yeah, but they didn't make those. Well, they made the Zapper, but that was
they made the Zapper that came with Link's crossbow training, which was useless.
What was more intriguing to me was the notion that people actually thought you needed that stuff.
Oh, like the sword thing, right? Like
there's like a lot of bootleg lightsabers.
Where it's just like put the Wiimote in this plastic piece of junk, like the hockey stick for Gretzky's slap shot or whatever.
Yeah, there you go. There's one. That was great if you were like a kid. I get it, but we're not. So it was like the tennis racket that does nothing. You're right. A lot of people thought you needed those to play said game, right?
I can't even understand why people would possibly think you needed them. Like how can you look at what you're getting and not make the connection in your brain that
I don't know.
it's literally a shell of plastic that you're putting the remote in and doing the exact same thing with.
So there's a lot of hunk of junk out there for the Wii. So
lot.
all that stuff we're saying is basically the worst.
Can I challenge you on one?
Yeah.
N64 RAM expansion pack.
But that did something.
Did stuff.
I know. I want to pick a fight. Well, here's what I'm saying though. But
okay, so he sets this up. I want to pick a fight. Now I don't know how I'm going to respond to this.
There were what 2 games that required it, right?
There
DK
was a
and
lot.
Perfect Dark?
There was about 8 games.
No, there are games that supported it, but I think there were only a couple that actually required it.
Perfect Dark,
and Donkey Kong. I think were the
Star
only
Wars
two that
Rogue
needed it.
Squadron.
Used it, but I don't think it required it.
Challenge.
It required it for multiplayer, I think.
Winner, Glenn.
Donkey Kong required it because it came with it.
Because it came with it.
Yeah. I think Perfect Dark was somewhat handicapped. Like if you didn't have it, you could only access certain game modes. You couldn't have all the bots if you didn't have the expansion. But I think
how many games released on the N64?
Off the top of my head, 100 and something.
That it?
There's not many.
Really?
It's not a big library.
And there were 8 games that supported it or needed it potentially.
Yeah, but it did something.
Well, yeah, I'm
Do you
just
know what I
saying,
mean? It did something.
You don't think it's kind of lame that they didn't just build the system with more RAM in the first place, so you didn't have to get an extra peripheral to play a couple of games that were 2 of the more popular releases for it?
But now you're getting into like territory like what the Genesis did, how they just kept adding stuff.
Well, yeah, that's lame too, though.
But it wasn't bad. It was, you couldn't upgrade the hard drive back then, right? So it was just a way to make the games better.
It says there's 387 according to Wikipedia.
Okay, there you
with
go.
84 exclusive to Japan and 50 to North America.
So I was way off, but
so it's like 3% of the library required it. I'll throw out there though, but like the NES has a modem port in it, right? So Nintendo's allowing their consoles to do stuff, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I mean, the N64 also had a hard drive underneath it.
I gotcha, and I'm gonna one up you with this: the GameCube modem.
Ouch! DOA.
Oh,
I concede the fight, sir.
That was good. I think I just fatality there. You're done.
My spine ripped out of my body.
That's pretty bad. So the other part of that question from Steve was, should the Wii have revolved all around that motion gaming? As he says, it should have been an add-on maybe.
Worked out pretty well for him.
I agree. And we've seen how it feels as an add-on on the other systems. It kind of feels like an add-on, an unnecessary piece of tech.
I think the problem is by making it an add-on, you're giving people the option not to use it.
Kind of like Xbox One, drop and connect. Now I have the option not to use it.
With the Wii, Steve, I'll say I liked the system because that's what it did. But I always complain about Twilight Princess, where I wish I could have used the classic controller instead of waggling my arm to, swing Link's sword. If there had been that option in the games like that in Mario Galaxy, I would have been drawn to it more. But because you had to use the remote, that part I didn't like.
So that's Steve's airtime. Let's flip sides. Find out what Ian has to say. You guys ready?
Did he email under his own name or a different persona this week?
Well, Ian's only ever come under his own name. We had at some other point another guy who's a fan of Ian named Russell Bland. I don't know. He speaks highly of him. I guess he tried to reach out to Ian, but Ian didn't want to get involved because it felt weird and biased, and I don't know.
That sounded shady.
That's totally legit.
Hello, my beloved and beautiful and talented NES Club, Rob, Jay, and Glenn. It's been 730 hours since I last wrote to you, but it's felt like 800. I was detained for a few weeks for a minor offense, so I was unable to write. But I thought of you often from my cell. It always confuses me how people don't like you watching them, and yet they have their windows in their homes.
Dude, Ian, I love you, man. Seriously.
Firstly, I'd like to talk about Glenn. Because I feel he doesn't get enough exposure on the show, but he should.
Thank you, sir.
That velvety, rich tone could melt the snow from the Mackenzie River. Why he isn't a famous newscaster is anyone's guess. I wondered if you might read this out loud.
He's becoming one.
So, Glenn, I'm going to pass over this to you. It's right there.
Oh, my God. Do I have to read this in my actual voice?
Well, dude, you have the best voice.
Do it in the voice of Orson Welles.
French.
I'm actually trying to do it and I can't. Good evening. I'm Glenn, the Truth Stanway, and you are listening to NPU 107.8, leading you into the comfort zone. There you go, Ian.
I'm Glenn, the Truth Stanway, and you're listening to NPU. NPU stands for Nintendo Players United, which is the name of the page that Ian runs on Facebook.
Oh, word. Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't actually realize that, so that's
yeah, so Ian runs that page, and that's how I met him. Are you a member of that page?
I am not, but I will be as soon
You
as,
should join,
I
and
get an
everybody else
opportunity.
that's listening should join, because it's not like a random crappy group. He actually does a really good job promoting not only the members, but really cool stuff that he finds, like obscure Wii games. He's a big fan of the Wii library.
Yeah, I've gotten that from,
Huge fan, which is cool, because I'm discovering games that I kind of wrote off.
Just as an aside, before you finish.
Yeah, no,
Ian's
I haven't even got to
I was
it.
gonna say,
There's like
still a
bullet
lot
points,
left.
like 1, 2.
I saw it. I feel the need to explain to our listeners that you need to understand that when Jay and Rob and I all get in the same room and there's potentially some alcohol being consumed, there's a lot of Christopher Walken and Orson Welles that happens. So we apologize. in
Old
advance.
man.
Billy Trumpson.
It's too much directing around here.
I'm Han Solo, captain of the Millennium Falcon. Chewie here says,
Okay, get it back on the rails. Get it back on the rails.
Yes, indeed.
let's
if
get
it's a
down to
fast
the
ship.
action. Let's get down to the action. Okay, my questions for this week are, number 1. What are your feelings about the continued region coding of Nintendo and the Wii U? And does region coding actually serve any real purpose in this modern world where practically nothing is uncensored or unattainable?
No.
Good question. Region coding. Jay?
No, everyone should do what Sony does. That's my answer.
But Sony still has exclusive Japanese games only.
Oh, well, that's a market thing, though, because they figure that those obscure
But
RPGs
in
aren't
the
going
modern
to.
world we live in, where everything is obtainable, should they just release it to the market? I mean, sure, they can only market it there, but if you want to buy it on PSN, should you have the right to go do it? Clearly, I say yes.
Yeah, but I mean, they look at it like they're not going to make money if they sell
It costs
those
them
for-
nothing to put a digital file up on the PSN, which is already in. They're just choosing to only
I don't
have-
like to speak about digital. I don't feel comfortable.
Moving
I
on.
deny the existence of digital.
I see what you're saying. Like, if it's a physical disc, they have to manufacture something. It has to ship.
Yeah.
It has to go places. There are jobs involved. The
You know-
economy collapses. The world's under pressure.
I never-
Chaos. Cats and dogs living together.
I never understood it in the first place, so I don't think there should be.
I think it's an archaic
Yeah.
mode of thinking.
Yeah,
and I don't see the point in it anymore either.
I know Ian in particular is a little upset because there's no physical release of DuckTales on the Wii U. And I know he was
And-
He
and
doesn't know the
in
bullet-
Europe.
Doesn't
In
know
Europe.
the bullet he's dodged.
Yeah.
I'll chime
Yeah.
in here too and say that I was a little, TO'd that we didn't get Strider. I wanted Strider on disc, but
Well, it's not marketable here, Jay, so you don't get it. But you got to download it.
yeah, that I don't get Strider. How is that not going to sell? But anyway,
Number 2. Did you have something to add, Glenn?
No, just
Good.
I'm
Number
just
2.
admiring Jay's digital hatred. I'm gonna go home and roll around in my Steam library when I go home.
I will murder you,
like
sir.
my money pit.
Funny, that wasn't your favorite part of the doc when we talked about digital versus physical.
Like that's an up arguing that. part
No,
with
you
guys.
got him. You got him. GameCube modem
There's
for
too
the
much
win.
directing around here.
You pests! Number 2. How do you think the Wii U's controller pad screen could best be used to be incorporated within a game? And this can either be for a game that exists already or for one you would like to see. What do you think?
What's the best?
Shovel
use?
Knight uses it kind of cool. I'm sure it's nothing like groundbreaking, but it has all your inventory in there so you can switch on the fly by the tap of a button.
There's some games that you used it in really really cool ways. I don't know if I could
But
say the
practical
best way.
ways, like Lego City, like Batman, you can hold it up to the screen and kind of scan around in 360 and see
Yeah, I think
stuff.
that's
And it's like,
gimmicky. That's gimmicky.
and it's like I want to sit on the couch. I want to be lazy. I want my hands rested on my knees and playing a game. I don't want to have to exercise and get up to unlock this.
I like
thing.
how it was used in Zombie U.
Tell us.
I
I've never played.
No,
No.
It's like anytime you go into your backpack, it switches to
Backpack.
your backpack. It switches to the gamepad screen, and you manage all your inventory from there. But it's kind of like Dead Space in that the game doesn't pause while you're looking at your inventory. So like you can still kind of glance up in the screen and you see like a third party or like a third person view of your character rooting around in the bag, but you can kind of see your immediate surroundings too.
So
and there's some tension in going in.
You can still get attacked.
Yeah,
okay.
and that's really, really cool, I think. So I think ways like that are kind of neat. The way it's going to be used in the new Star Fox game, I think, looks really, really cool.
Yeah.
Where it's going to be like,
what's that?
It's going to be like a cockpit view on the gamepad, and you're essentially steering your ship and kind of monitoring things.
See, I got to tell you, if I got to sit there with my hands and arms up for the whole game.
Well, some of us aren't lazy, Rob. So
well, show me one of you guys that isn't lazy.
Do you remember Four Swords on GameCube?
Yeah.
That was one of the best uses of something like that,
Yeah.
where you had the Game Boy Advance SP plugged in, and when you went into certain dungeons, it would go onto the Game Boy screen.
I think
it's kinda like
something like that would
It's
work
like a
with the
DS
gamepad well.
thing, though, right? Like, because it's like one screen and then it would go to the other screen, but it's like right there, so your eyes
Yeah.
don't have to shift.
Oh, I got a great idea. Why don't we use the whole pad as like a horn?
Oh, so when we're playing Mario Kart, I can honk by touching. Yeah.
Waste of time.
The Pac-Man Versus was kind of like that too. I don't know if you ever played Pac-Man Versus, but like,
Only in the arcades, brother.
was it the person who had
Wrong. Long.
was the person who had the Game Boy was Pac-Man, I think, and then the other three people were playing the ghosts.
Jeez.
Are we thinking of the same game where you have four guys who are Pac-Man?
It's like Bomberman, kind of. You're
No, it's like
competing
three
with each
people
other.
are the ghosts, and then one person's Pac-Man. And
cool.
I forget how it was broken up, but it's like the one player had the advantage because they could only see the one screen, but then everybody was like hunting them.
I would like to
That's
see
cool.
it like in a Final Fantasy kind of like turn-based RPG or something where you can really swap and customize stuff like really quickly without having to go in sub-screens and like drag and drop stuff. And
It sounds kind of boring, but I mean, for inventory management, it really is awesome.
here's the other thing.
Have you guys played Wind Waker HD?
No,
I have not.
I
It's
have it.
Like,
but I
because
haven't.
you can switch off all your items
Awesome.
using this, and it's amazing. Like, it's nice and like I went back and played Wind Waker or Twilight Princess afterwards, and I cannot believe how much slower it was. But
And I was gonna say
for that stuff, it's great.
I
yeah.
mean, have you played Resident Evil Revelations or Mass Effect on the Wii U? Because I wonder if it has the same kind of.
I haven't because
Yeah.
I played Mass Effect on my 360 already. So
I
didn't
should
bother
pick it.
grabbing
It's pretty cheap. I should get number 3 and. Check
What about
that
like
out.
Mario Maker? I mean, that seems like really tailor-made since it's all
does.
done on the.
Yeah,
they're
that
putting
would
the
be
focus on the pad instead of the screen, which is cool.
No, I think
I hope it evolves beyond just an inventory thing in a slick, ergonomic, kind of efficient way to do that because that seems like the obvious thing. Like, what am I looking at, or like a map, or I just want something cool. So it's a good question, Ian.
Scribblenauts, same thing. It's used really well in Scribblenauts. Just having that.
Write.
Yeah, it makes it so much easier to be able to.
Yeah.
But it works really, really, really well for Scribblenauts for that reason. So I think you're going to see some people come up with some really creative ways to use it. I know, and I would not be shocked if Nintendo is the company that does that.
Like usual?
Yeah, but.
Yeah.
To comment on you guys discussing the downfall of the Sonic franchise last week, well, let me just say this. Dramatic pause. Sonic Colors on the Wii. From the comments, it's obvious none of you have played it, but you simply must. This game is a complete return to form and the closest to the original Mega Drive series that exists. Gorgeous graphics, fast fluid gameplay. It's an absolute must-buy. If you don't, I will find you, all of you.
Yeah, okay. But, wow, there was one Sonic game that's good. Okay. So am I supposed to, like...
You're
all of a
supposed to
sudden,
apologize.
Like, cheer for that?
I'm most disappointed that he didn't confirm that Sonic and the Black Knight was about time travel.
What about Shadowhog?
Or
Shadow the Hedgehog.
Shadowhog.
What the hell is Shadowhog?
He's Mike Diamond's VHC creation.
Oh, dude.
Have any of you guys bothered to play Sin and Punishment yet on the
Oh,
Wii?
here we go.
Yes, Jay, I am talking to you.
Ian, I told you it's sealed. It's in my collection. And one of these days...
All these fans are pests.
One of these days, my friend, I will open it, yes. But I
Okay.
have not yet, no.
Okay, finally. I have been on the road since my release doing open workshops in town halls and churches, spreading the word of the NES Club. People have become so passionate about the show that they began carving effigies from turnips of all you guys, which is really heartwarming.
That's sexy.
Lastly, can all you say hi to my mom, Lynn? She asks, as any good mom would, as to why I have the names Jay, Glenn, and Rob painted on my wall, and she also loves the show. Now.
What's her
Hi,
name,
Lynn.
sorry?
Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Lynn, and I hope when Ian calls you mom, it's M-U-M.
That's what it says here.
Cheers,
Of course.
man.
It says MUM. Peace. I look forward to our next meeting of the minds. Love from the number one. Ian.
Wow, that's really well written.
Love from the number one. Steve, how do you feel about that?
I'm sometimes troubled by how we're supposed to have a show after epic.
Well, what's our runtime? Because maybe we can just call it a day. All right,
I think
I'm
we got
out
an
of here.
episode in the
Thanks. Ending on a high note.
Excellent.
Ian, thanks again, brother. I love you.
I guess we can get to the
Yeah,
topic.
Ian and Steve, what I will say is, regardless of how you feel your competition turns out, or how anybody at this table
Or this
feels,
manufactured competition.
this manufactured competition
on our part.
that has no significance, we do appreciate your passion and your interest and how enthusiastic you guys are about what we're doing. And I will say now, having seen the film, I'm even more enthusiastic about you guys getting a chance to experience it for yourselves. And
I'm just hitting delete. That's it.
it's just
I'm done.
changed their minds.
I'm done.
Let's go make a movie about coffee.
Forecasting the future of video games. All right, guys. These are just a bunch of like shotgun questions, as they usually are, and we'll see where they go. We'll probably won't get to all of them.
Metroid.
Okay, that takes care of the first 3 questions.
Perfect.
Hang on. Looking. All right, here's one. How much longer will it be Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft? Chances of one of them dropping out, or another competitor entering the space? Ouya, Steambox.
Oh.
What about PC gaming?
Well, Steam is a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about consoles.
Well, Steam
Like-
boxes.
Well, how long is it going to be those 3? The big 3 now?
I don't know, because there's been a lot of chatter about Microsoft having some issues with their financials recently, and particularly their gaming.
They have endless
division.
money, and so does Sony, and that's unfortunately the way the game industry is now. It's those two juggernauts. Nintendo's not going anywhere either. Everyone's always like, "This is their last system. It's their last system."
So let's a lot of these questions would be going to fun predictions. There's no right or wrong. It's just going to be fun.
I think a lot of people like to try and write Nintendo off, but a lot of people also forget, the stranglehold that Nintendo has on the handheld industry and how much money they're
How
making off the
long
software.
is it going to just be the 3?
I don't think it'll be much longer.
Who dares come in though? Who would
I
you
don't-
say
I
is
don't
going to
think
go
we're
in?
necessarily-
Ouya exists, right?
I don't think we're
they're obviously
necessarily-
like non-existent.
I don't think we're going to lose anybody necessarily, but I think Steam's going to be a player for sure.
What about PC gaming? I
What
read
about
some
PC
article.
gaming?
Whoa, attitude.
No, that's
Easy, girlfriend.
Steam right there. I mean, Steam has changed the way people
It has.
play games on the PC.
You go into
But it's
a brick and
digital,
mortar.
man.
You go into a brick and mortar game store.
Clearly,
now,
some people don't care about that.
and you see like the PC section.
None of
how
those people
small
are
it
in your
is.
film,
And they won't be with
and
that
they never
attitude.
will be.
I am the director, and you will listen to everything I have to say for 95 minutes and 45 seconds. And you will like it. What were you saying, Jay? PC gaming?
Yeah, I already said it, so
The shit
not
box?
repeating it.
Wow.
That was a letdown.
Got like some real attitude.
You go into game stores now, and the section of PC games is so tiny.
It's because it's all digital.
It's sad. I don't like it. It's very sad to me. I don't want a digital file. I don't want to click on Elder Scrolls Skyrim on my, desktop or whatever, and that's the game.
This is the obvious next question that I
Sorry,
have.
could you repeat that? I was looking at my Steam library.
Jeez.
Just because you have a picture of it on your computer doesn't make it real.
Yeah. Sometimes
What's the trigger going to be that completely eliminates physical games? Is there any? Like, what is there going to be like a major tipping point event? And are they ever going to disappear?
Are they ever going to disappear? No. I think there will always be that need, be it music, movies, and video games, to have that physical object, that tangible object you can put on a shelf. There's always going to be a demand for that. Digital is rising. But again, I'm 100% for the physical, and I have such a difficult time still to this day buying like Xbox Live Arcade games. Like Strider, I haven't, because I just feel like I'm not buying anything. Do you know what I mean? You're spending $20 on whatever game, and you are not really getting anything that you can hold or show to your friends.
Yeah, I think...
I mean, you and I should talk about this, because you don't feel the same way.
Well, yeah, I don't completely feel the same way. And I know I've mentioned this on another episode before, too, but usually my strategy now is if there's a game I'm really, really into and it's available on a console, I'll usually pick it up first. So I'll grab it on 360, Xbox One, PlayStation, whatever, whatever platform of choice I decide I want to use for it. I'll play the crap out of it, trade it back in while I can still get a couple of bucks for it, and then when it goes on sale on a Steam sale, like Summer or Boxing Week, I buy it for $5, and that's like my permanent one, and I have all that stuff so I can go back and play it.
Permanent.
First,
But it is, man. Like I bought
Because the servers could never go down, and they could never lose the IP, and it couldn't just erase because it has a physical presence.
Do you know how long I've owned Half-Life 2 and how long I've owned that as a digital versus a physical CD?
I understand, man.
I still have the original install CD, but because we registered that with Steam,
There's
like
just
I've never
something
used
inherently intangible about the digital stuff that just really irks me.
it.
We've talked about this and we've gone back and forth clearly, but here's one of the serious questions. Like, what's the fate of the retail stores if it goes more digital? At what point does that landscape completely change?
What do you think, Jay?
I mean, there's been huge articles and stuff. I mean, Jay's been a retail guy before. He's worked at stores in the past. You've worked at retail game stores. What do you guys think, since you're familiar with that space?
If they don't keep up with the trend of the game industry, they're done. And I think there's some video game retailers that are doing it well. And, I mean, look at Blockbuster. They didn't keep up. Gone. They're just, I mean, how quickly were they gone too?
Like that.
Yeah, it happened virtually overnight.
One of the
It was
solutions,
scary, man,
one of the solutions that's been proposed is that chains like GameStop sell exclusive GameStop content. So when you pre-order from them, you get an exclusive GameStop map or level or skin.
There's a lot of that, and that's been happening for a few years. And for me personally, the content you get, it's, what do they have going for Destiny now? Like for Destiny, you get an exclusive like speeder bike.
I just hate the idea that like GameStop's going to have this map, but Best Buy will have that map.
It's all money though, dude. It's money.
Yeah,
Well,
Do you know what I mean though? Like,
and I think it depends on the content too, because the big controversy, the nerd rage controversy over the last week or so has been the add-on content for Alien Isolation, where they're doing the content based on the original Alien film that is pre-order only content, and like you can only get one of those missions if you pre-order at GameStop. And here's what it comes down to: gamers, nerds are always going to be enraged by that crap. But as retailers, I don't blame them for doing it one bit. They're just trying to find a way to survive. That's what they're
trying to guarantee a sale.
They're trying to make money.
We are supposed to do the same thing in the film industry. The way you're supposed to make a movie is not save your pennies and hope people help you on Kickstarter. You're supposed to pre-sell the film based on your idea and your track record and say, this is what I want. Pre-order the film from me, Paramount, and I will give you this. So the philosophy's been around forever.
Yeah, but it's and I know like people get. I'm a big fan of game trailers. Like I watch a lot of the game trailer shows and the videos that the editors do and stuff like that. And man, like there's people who work at that site, and I know there's other people in the community who are just enraged by the concept of pre-ordering. Right? It just it makes them furious. The notion that they have to pre-order a game to get it, or they should put money down to kind of earmark their copy of a game. And I get that, but at the same time, like they're trying to make money. And that's what they're trying. It's the reality of what it is.
if you're gonna offer me a limited exclusive like collector's edition or something like that, I get that for pre-ordering. But NHL 2015, pretty safe to say I don't have to go down and pre-order because there's going to be 10 million copies.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do that those pre-order numbers do affect what you get in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, EA knows they're going to ship 10 million of them because they have done the same game every year, and they can reasonably predict how much they can spend on developing the game because they know what they'll get back. So a game like Alien Isolation, which is a franchise that is spotty at best, because of Sega with the Colonial Marines or whatever, they're scared, and they're trying to make the most of this, positive buzz.
Absolutely. And as if you walk into a GameStop and they've got an employee at GameStop pestering you to pre-order that game, there's a reason they want to have it to sell you. It's not just a matter of them trying to guarantee a sale. That will affect the product they get shipped to them, and they're trying to sell it.
Here's the thing too about the brick and mortar stores. If there does ever come a time where there's no more physical discs, God help us, but you're still going to need a place to buy the console, controllers, these download
Amazon, one click.
These download
right
digital
to the
cards.
door.
What about people who don't have credit cards?
You can get prepaid credit cards. You go to a grocery store. You put $10 on it. It's like a gift card.
Nah, it's never going to be the norm.
It'll never be the norm that we don't all carry money in our wallets. We'll never just have a card with a code that has a digital currency. It'll never be that.
There's
15 years ago, debit came in and
but there's
changed
always
the world.
that need for people to go out and shop. They want to go in stores and look at things. They don't want to look at a screen.
Well,
at least I'm speaking for myself here.
Steam would beg to differ. Steam is a perfect example why people want to sit at home and click a button and get that game, and that's it. People order computer parts and build their own stuff online, and it goes right to their door. We're in an instant gratification society, one click away.
But there's always those people
who
those
want
the bookshelves of games. They want the bookshelf of movies. That will never die.
100%.
Remember when you pre-ordered Mario Kart from Best Buy and you got it right away because of one click?
Oh.
That was a different thing. That was a different thing because I wasn't paying attention. If I would have got it, I was going to pick it up at the store. Anyways, the trigger of this, like what's the trigger where it's going to go from physical to digital? What do you think, what event will happen? Is it the launch of the Steam box and all of a sudden everybody else is really going to focus just on digital stuff because that's what Steam does really well?
Let's say Nintendo got their online act together and it worked. And they said, okay, guess what? Miyamoto has created Super Mario Bros. 4. It's been in the vault for 20 years.
Doo-doo-doo-doo.
You can only get Super Mario Bros. 4 digitally. If you have a game of that magnitude and you can only get it in that format, then you will start to see digital take over.
That's one sale, but I'm talking about like...
No, the big titles though. Like if you have Halo 6, Halo 7, you can only get it on Xbox Live. If you start bringing the blockbusters out and only get them in that format, that's when it will take over.
Sure. I'd buy that. Glenn?
No, I think it's a reasonable argument. And the fact is that the option still there is really the only reason that brick and mortar isn't completely irrelevant at this point.
Will PCs ever replace consoles? Kind of a scary question.
I think consoles are becoming more like PCs. But
Unfortunately, I don't like that. You're right, it is too much like a PC, like the dashboard on the PS4.
And everything has hard drives in it now, and everything's
the Xbox
connected.
One,
And
I don't like that. It's like, to play Grand Theft Auto 5, you need the Xbox with this hard drive instead of the Xbox with this hard drive. I just like the box, and you put the disc in, and it goes. So, I don't know.
What do you think?
Says the guy who defended the RAM expansion pack for the N64.
You son of a...
What about indie stuff? What's the future of indie games and their role?
Because I think like digital really is the most practical way to release.
Well,
that
digital
stuff.
or not, like let's just talk about indie games and where they're headed. Obviously, digital for them is like super cheap.
Well, and this is where this is interesting because this is where all these questions start to really kind of create conflicting images in my mind because
that's why they're in the outline.
It's like you plan this or something.
Weeks in advance.
Weeks in advance.
I've got the question in italics and the right answer
and
in bold.
the right answers. So it's because
wrong.
We go back to talking about brick and mortar stores and digital, basically replacing physical. And while I don't necessarily see that happening anytime soon, if at all, and I'm kind of on the same like regardless of what you guys think about my opinions on the matter, I'm kind of with Jay. Like I don't know because you guys like I get called Mr. Digital and stuff, and I'm not. Like I mean, I'm open to the idea, and I think that's really the difference. Is you guys don't like it at all, whereas like I don't. I can find a balance there. Like
I'm like 90-10. If I have to buy it for like DuckTales, like we originally had to, or Strider, I'll do it. But it's like, ugh.
On the other hand, indie game developers count on digital as a distribution system, and that's brilliant. And it's the way they should be relying on it. And as somebody who's probably going to be doing digital distribution for his film, and that's probably going to be a very important part of that model.
It's not. Well, I'm not going to get into it. Obviously, it's one of the windows. Everybody watches Netflix and iTunes and Hulu. I don't want to belabor, but go on.
So I don't want to, on one hand, you don't want to crap all over digital because of, our love for physical media. But at the same time, I feel that indie developers are going to make the game industry great again, and that's going to be a primary method for delivering.
Obviously, digital is like a tool in their toolbox now because they know they can get it out there that way. I'm sure a lot of indie developers would like to have a physical release. It's just lots of cost.
But I think indie developers are the ones taking chances and doing really, really cool things now. And at some point, that Call of Duty bubble is going to burst.
It's coming, man. When you see stuff like Shovel Knight and like some of these other digital titles that are coming, it's just like mind blowing. And sure, Shovel Knight like speaks to us because it's an 8-bit kind of thing. like harkening back to a lot of our favorite like titles like Mega Man, Final Fantasy, Mario 3, DuckTales. But man, it gets me so excited for what's in the works.
It's not just the game on the shelf. It's the experience of getting the game.
It's the story. It's going there, getting it in the morning, racing back.
It's the experience of, yes, that title you've been waiting for, that you've been reading about for a long time is finally out. Getting up in the morning, driving there.
It's like the film, man. It's just like the film.
You pick it up, and then there's the art of the box, the back of the box, the inside, all the inserts. You can touch it.
You can't just see it behind a median, a screen. There's nothing stopping
when I'm on
there.
Xbox Live and I click on Strider, you go to screenshots. There's 4 screenshots. It's not exciting. I'd rather go into a store, pick up the box, and just hold it and look at it. You can't replace that.
And this is where we get back to the film a little bit. I mean, yeah, we're going to be on, Netflix and iTunes and all that at some point, but we want to do theatrical stuff. So people have that experience of seeing the movie with an audience, getting up and knowing at 7 o'clock they're going to go in a theater with other people that are excited by it.
It's an event.
It is an event.
It's not just scrolling through Netflix and say, hey, how can I kill 2 hours? Oh, that looks interesting.
It's an event. That looks interesting. It's a story that you get to tell. It's a memory, not just an experience. It's an actual memory, I think. Would you have rather watched the film, the rough cut that we watched last night, on Netflix at home, or go to the screening and come back?
Let me just chime in there. I know it was directed at Glenn, but you had the film, you had a link for it on your phone, the night before we saw it. You started to play it because I just
everybody at this moment is hacking a certain Vimeo account.
I wanted to see a little bit of the changes you did, and then what did I do? I stopped you. I'm like, no, man, I want to see this in the theater.
By your request, you wanted to see stuff.
That's right. That's right. And then when I started to watch it on the little iPhone, I was just like, you know what? I don't want to see it like this. I want to see it for the first time in the theater. I want to go to the theater and see it. It's the whole event of the thing.
What do you think about the question? Would you have rather just watched it at home on YouTube by yourself?
Sorry to cut you off.
Or Vimeo or...
Honest answer is no, but I don't know that I can relate that back to indie gaming.
Well, because it's about the experience of the digital.
It's different because I have a personal connection to the film because of you guys, but
that's part of it. These games that we read about for months and months and see in magazines, see the game trailers, they're trying to create that experience so that you get excited about it. So that when you go to the store, it's part of it and you're getting it and you're putting it in. And that's diminished when it's like, click, I got it.
Right, but if at the same time, if the people who made Shovel Knight,
Yacht Club Games,
can't afford or find a method for like putting a boxed copy of that on shelves,
I totally get
does it diminish Shovel Knight because they don't have the ability to?
No,
the experience would be more enhanced if there was another component to getting me kind of excited and more of a story. Like I was sitting there waiting, is it midnight yet? So I can click the button and download. Like it's so anticlimactic. It's like, yes, I'm excited, and then I got it. Like with zero effort. Not that I'm looking for an obstacle to buy a game, but it's part of the story. The story. It's the story.
That goes back to Steam. I know you're, Glenn, a huge fan of it, but they have these big sales, and let's just use one of your favorite, franchise like Assassin's Creed. You could get them all for $20. There's something about that cheapens the value of the actual game.
Now that said,
do you know what I mean?
They create a story at least with those events. It's like, it's coming, guys. This, the Steam summer event. It's coming, and then you get excited, like, oh god, here we go. I'm only going to spend $50. I'm only going to do it.
They've done an incredible job of marketing those sales as events in themselves.
But without that, it's just like I can go on whenever, click a button. But now you're excited because you're invested in to see what the prices are, even if that's kind of weak. But it's like now you're hunting. You're like, I'm only going to do this. It's like, I can afford $5 more because these games are only $1. So that's all I'm saying. That the physical.
I think it takes away the value of the games. I mean, I know it's great to save money, obviously, but I really think it does.
Yes. Is Half-Life 2 not as good a game because they put it in the orange box? Is Portal a lesser game because it was included in the orange box?
No.
Team Fortress 2?
No, but I still went out and got the orange box, and it.
It's like why
Jay. But that's a bunch of stuff being offered at a discount. Here it is. Is that different?
Jay could have when we did the film. I said to him, I dare you to get all the games in 30 days. And he's like, I could click a button and get them all on eBay. Get 300 of them out of the way. But he wants every game to have a story.
I think we're going down the road of bundle deals now. I think we've kind of really gone off track.
All right.
I see what you're saying.
We'll leave it up to our viewers to decide, our listeners, wherever we are. We talked about accessories earlier. What's the future of that stuff? Accessories, peripherals, where's that going?
Not Connect, hopefully.
Brain implants.
Will we ever lose Connect in motion kind of gaming since it's been introduced? Will it just quietly go away and then come up like years later, or will it be part of it? They just announced like a little bit different, but Rock Band's coming back.
Thank God.
So those are coming back, those instruments, that experience. What's the future of accessories and stuff? I mean, Oculus Rift is an example.
I think we're going back old school. I think a lot of people follow Nintendo, whatever Nintendo's doing. But now it seems to be like...
VR seems to be a pretty big thing going forward.
Oculus Rift seems intriguing.
Yeah.
I guess my question is just like, what's the barrier to entry for that? Like, what am I actually going to have to drop on?
The dev kits are super cheap. They're only $300.
I don't consider that super cheap.
But for a dev kit, right? And that's not mass produced. So you know when it's mass produced, it's going to drop exponentially.
But like at this point, I don't have a PS4. I don't have that.
But you have
So
an
I'm
Xbox One, which was more expensive.
Not if I'm including a virtual reality headset with it.
Okay, Oculus Rift is a separate thing on its
But
own.
that's and not what I'm. It's not a matter of whether it's more expensive or not. What I'm saying is like one's $500, one's $400. It's still $400. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make it inexpensive just because it's less expensive. It's it's still an investment in that
Sure.
amount, right? And that's not to say like I'll wind up with a PS4 at some point because that's the way I roll. Like I have everything, and I want if it's got games on it, I want to play. I'm gonna play it.
Glenn has everything.
I think we are heading towards virtual reality, proper virtual reality. But I don't think that will ever be the norm. I don't think, again, Super Mario 4 will be released for that. Do you know what I mean? I think
Jay's motioning with a headset on his head.
Everyone's going to want still that old school TV controller in hand.
Like you're going to get home from work after a hard day at work and drop on the couch and pop open a beer and stick a thing on top of your head.
What, you're going to sit there and stand in front of a screen and wave your hand around to play tennis?
No. Well, then that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
No. But that's what they said about the Wii, and it sold 101 million consoles.
I'm not disputing that, but I'm saying we're getting back to basics aside from the Oculus Rift. I'm talking about now there's one Kinect game for Xbox One.
Sure.
Kinect Sports. There's the Dance Central game. Other than that, now you can buy the console for $399 and not have that camera. Why is that? Because nobody wants that anymore. Nobody wants to do that.
But what I'm saying is that I think when Oculus drops, or even if it's Sony and they do a separate bundle with their VR thing, it's going to hit in a big way the way did. Because everybody in the world wants to see what proper virtual reality is like.
I agree. But
and the fad alone will push it. I don't say it's the future.
Yeah.
Here's where I don't agree with you on that. Because the Wii was being sold to people who are not traditional gamers. Oculus Rift, I don't think is being sold to people who aren't gamers.
Wait for the marketing.
And I also don't think, like, there's a difference between, you look at the Wii and you see how inexpensive that console was. And I just talked about the barrier to entry on my wallet to get a PlayStation 4 and get Oculus.
But you get everything, too, so you'll get one eventually, just like the lifespan of the Wii.
But I'm a gamer.
But for one person who
wants
to see it, all it takes is one friend to have it and have the other four come over and see how cool it is. That's all it takes. And then it's going to sell itself on word of mouth.
But it's not going to be it will never be the norm.
I'm not saying it's going to be the norm, but I'm saying if we're going to forecast the future of video games, this is something that's huge that's coming in a big way. Because it's like, we've done motion, we've done this, and I don't want to say, well, there's nothing else left, but it's been like the elephant in the room that we've been trying to do for so long. Us three, at the stop sign table.
I played it. It was good.
No, you didn't.
I played the space game. I didn't play the horror game. I was too scared.
I don't know if I say that playing it. You experienced it. It sat on your head and you... Okay.
I didn't play the space game?
It happened to you.
No, because you don't play that. You sit there and watch it like a movie because it's guided. You don't do anything.
You're playing it wrong.
Okay.
It's like
I'm
watching
playing it wrong. Okay. What's the right answer?
Well, by contrast, the horror one, you have to choose which way you're going and actually go places instead of passively watching the objects in front of your face.
Poor choice of words. I still remember clicking a button to move to the different planets.
You weren't supposed to click that.
Oh.
With smartphones, everyone has a portable game console in their pocket. How will gaming continue to evolve, given that everyone has at least a game device now? And how will it continue to integrate into our lives more than that? Is it going to be the chip in our heads and we're always playing a game we can reskin what our eyes see? So we got 8-bit world I'm looking at?
I don't know. You're almost seeing that with Google Glass already, right?
Well, is that the next thing? What is Google Glass Google Glass going to do for gaming? That could be interesting, right?
It's like augmented reality, AR.
Yeah.
That's another fad.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tough for me.
But it's the further integration of games.
It's tough for me not to see that stuff as gimmicky.
Fair enough.
I'm not disputing that.
Nobody's
going to
play a game on a 4-inch screen on your phone. Gimmick.
Well, I still think
Everybody
that's gimmicky too.
Yeah, but millions of people do it.
I know.
Millions do it. So obviously there's something to it.
Oh, yeah, but it only lasts as long as the next phone.
That's
well,
all
the
people
iOS
want.
is a platform now, right? It's an actual video game platform.
Exactly.
So.
But that's all people want. They want the casual pick up and drop. They don't want to get invested into the cinematic games that are like a movie where you sit there and watch most of it. I thought that was going to be a rebuttal. How is that different than playing whatever?
Yeah.
Because you're just sitting there watching the images.
I think what you're probably going to see is I think you're going to continue to see social media becoming linked to gaming in a much, much stronger way. And I think that is further to what you're talking about with our lives being further integrated with games. I don't necessarily know that you're going to see it take a physical form like the old chip in the head cliche or
the old chip in the head.
Predictions.
But I think that in terms of all those tools that we all lean on so heavily to interact with people in our lives, including our phones and including our social networking tools and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, like I think you are going to start seeing games continue. Well, I mean, they already do, but you're going to see them continue to integrate with that stuff to a much greater degree.
So here's like my crazy, almost kind of silly prediction, and I mean, you guys don't have to like it, obviously, but it's kind of like what we did with the movie. I think games and gaming will play a greater role in every aspect of our lives. So I think even the jobs we have, there'll be aspects of gaming that play into it, whether it's a sales type thing, and it's kind of like a weird reward structure, but everything will be game-like. I really think that we will approach stuff.
Give me an example. I'm not too sure. I know
the way that you're collecting stuff, right? For the film. It's like we made that a game. Instead of just collecting it and taking your time, we said you've got 30 days. We came up with like the game show rules. I think that companies will look to employ game-like conditions to motivate people to have fun.
I can speak to that because the company I work for does that exact thing. And I don't want to get into detail about my employer or anything like that, but we have a recognition tool. Without trying to dumb it down too much, it's basically like Facebook, but for employees. And the whole idea behind it is you see your fellow employees do something great or go above and beyond the call of duty, and you can shout out and recognize them on this thing. And it's like a Facebook post.
Sure, so it's like a digital back room.
Managers have a certain amount of points we can distribute where we have these kind of prepaid credit cards that are reward cards. And when we hit certain sales criteria or whatever, we get points on these cards as like a extra incentive. So on top of the pay or whatever else, like we get that as a little bit of a bonus thing. And managers in the company can distribute those points to people for these things that they're giving shout outs on too. So it is literally like you can like.
Here's my $1 billion idea for you. Okay. Let's take what you said, but let's make it a platform where it's not just your company that's on that. It's not every company, but we'll say there's like 4 of these platforms out there, these games, but each one has like 80,000 corporations. So you work for that company, I work for this company, but we're on the same site. I see you getting points because you're doing well at work, but I'm getting points too, even though we're doing different jobs. But now we're talking in the same space about how we like to work, and it's not competitive, but it's like, oh, what's this guy doing? Oh, that's interesting. That's neat. Oh, man, I just got hired by these guys, and they're part of that, and they're getting extra points, which means I can kind of get this. I think that could be kind of cool. I think it's like I said, a crazy off-the-wall prediction, but it would encourage people to maybe want to get hired by companies that are part of this platform because they know the rewards of that platform lead to something.
Well, we just found our new vocation, so thanks for listening to the podcast, guys. We are going to stop recording it, and we're going to no longer make films or anything because now we've got a new business idea.
All right.
Cheers.
Thanks, Rob.
Cheers. That actually pretty much wraps up the podcast. So it was like perfect timing. Thanks for listening. This probably is a bit longer than our normal ones, Glenn.
We'll see how it edits down, but yeah, it's we don't get a chance to be in the same room often, so I think I think
it's a little justified. And by the sounds of it, everybody wants more content or more frequent content, so maybe the longer one will take them over. This is Rob McCallum alongside Jay Bartlett.
Thanks for listening, guys. Cheers.
And Glenn Stanway.
Thanks again for all the comments and support, guys. We'll talk to you soon.